back to Jan. The question is, it is great rhetoric to say how government is too big, too expensive, too etc. But where would you cut knowing the effects on people's life through services and etc.?
Okay, and I'll come back again. We don't have a revenue problem, we've got a spending problem. When you have revenue that increases by 6% actually, revenue increase 6%, but you have expenditure increases by 14.7%, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out we're living far out of the means. If you're going to be looking, and you've got to look from the 30,000 foot level down. When our citizens really need a service, there are programs out there for them, and that's what it's designed for. But there is so much abuse in so many of these programs that that's what's got to be looked at. In my book, you take a hard look at every single department. It should come from the governor down in the form of leadership to the directors of every single agency saying what areas could be run differently. We've got to reinvent the way government is run because it's not working without time.
Well, thank you. I think that we in this state must step up to a very serious conversation about the values proposition for human services and product from government. We need to decide together what the core or essential functions of government actually are. We need to step up to those functions and fund them fully. This includes education. This includes public health. It includes public safety, fire and police, and many other things. We need to have the conversation and we need to define what the core services and programs of government ought to be. At the same time, we need to define what the discretionary services and programs of government to be, and we need to fund those programs that we can, and back away from the ones that we cannot. This immigration issue that we talked about earlier from the black market economy, it is a security issue, it is an economic issue, and it is a public safety issue.
Thank you. So with that, let's change gears a little bit, and you may have a little familiarity with this one all. And what is your opinion of the federal health care mandate that all individuals must have or buy insurance?
The federal health care mandate, which is presently undergoing a challenge through our court system, is a means of creating something called community rating. It is a means of allowing the insurance industry to spread risk over the entire population. The point of this is to allow the distribution of risk in such a way that the healthcare system can address preventive medicine, public health, and wellness maintenance. It insists that the young workers are insured, as well as the elderly and infirm. And it distributes that risk as opposed to underwriting each individual against their own risk. It's a very important concept, and we must have it to make this Health Care Act work.
Thank you.
I am totally opposed to the way this was done. This government is set out as a government of the people and by the people, and the people had nothing to say about how this health care program was going to go into effect. The bills, as you watch television, I'm sure, just like I did. Bills weren't read, stuff was pushed through, and I believe it was politics as usual. This isn't the way this country was designed to run. There is nothing in our Constitution that says you have to provide health care or you have to buy health care. It's the wrong way to go. I'm totally opposed to the way this is being done.
Thank you. Every now and then we get a question that's directed specifically to one of our candidates. So what I do is I ask the question to the candidate, and then the opposing candidate has an opportunity not to address the question directly because it wasn't meant directly for them, but they can address the concept of the question as well. So with that, I'd like to begin. I have a question here for Jan Angel. It says, do you acknowledge that as County Commissioner you signed the commitment to the Bremerton Housing Authority, which created a $2 million liability? And second question is, do you regret that decision?
There was a lot of discussion about the housing authority that actually went on. I sat on the board as a housing commissioner, and I was also a Kitsap County commissioner too. So we were kind of wearing two hats, and that's kind of a difficult place to be. But what happened with the housing authority, each one of these were separate deals. And the Poplars Motel that was purchased, I totally voted against that because the deal didn't pencil. It still doesn't pencil. That should never have been purchased. The condos, well, first of all, we started out with the Norm Dix Government Center. That was really concerning to me because you don't revitalize a downtown based on bringing a government building in and then trying to create housing around it. You go just the opposite. You create the housing, the people, and they'll create the needs of the services. After a lot of discussion with my budget department, both on that Norm Dix Government Center and on the downtown condos, the budget department assured me that the financing was in place accurately and completely so that we could vote accordingly.
Somebody address the concept of the investment.
I'll pass on addressing the concept.
Okay.